Brent Porcio, TopVelocity.net. We're going to do a pitch analysis here at Jesse. Pair him up with Stephen Lacey. Stephen here is at 96. So we'll take him just before he lands, where he's still closed off. He's loaded on his backside. Take Jesse to the same spot. You're going to see a huge difference here. You're going to see a lot more loading into the hip. So sitting back into the hip. I would say Jesse even has more counter rotation, but not sitting as well, loading into the hip. You can see Stephen's front foot closed off, Jesse's is opening. So we're seeing him starting to open, less load into the hip than Lacey, even though he's still counter rotated. You can see Stephen's arm is internally rotated, almost a little external rotation starting here. So that means Stephen's going to be late to cock the arm. You're going to see Jesse going to be probably early, as we see as he opens, and he pretty much brings that arm up into that cock position. Okay, you see Stephen open and a significant as a drive as his back leg internally rotates, and a push. You can see the rubber or the plate here unfortunately move. He lost some velocity on that. He had more stability on that plate. It would propel him more forward. And then you take him to landing, both to landing. What you see is, because Jesse stayed so close, he has a good closed shoulder orientation, which is good, but he doesn't have as much pelvis rotation, or barely any at all. And you can see the foot still sideways. So he put his shoulders in position to be closed, which is great, very similar to Stephen. You know, Stephen has more what we call horizontal abduction. But Stephen has a lot more hip power here. He has a lot more momentum out of that too. So what you're going to have is similar orientations to translate energy up the kinetic chain to the ball, but you're going to have a lot more power in his engine when it comes to building momentum and powering hip rotation. You're going to see that from Stephen. So just look what that does to the trunk. When the trunk starts to go, tucks his glove, look how aggressive it is as this trunk starts to go forward. You're not going to be able to create that aggression at this point, literally one split second into landing, if you haven't generated this kind of power into landing in your lower half. You're just everything's going to kind of drift open. So you can see here, and that's what's really happening with Jesse, just kind of slowly rotating, not as much. You don't see the aggressive load on the arm, laying the arm back as you do here with Stephen. The reason you're seeing blurring here is that's how much faster he is, and there's not as much blurring here. You see this leg pulling in before Lacey's. That's because the weight shifted earlier with less force, so that leg is recoiling earlier because there was less force production being pushed through it. So you got an earlier recoil, and then you don't get as much forward trunk tilt to release. I mean, look at the more forward trunk tilt. So if we took a measure of forward trunk tilt for both of them, you're going to see, almost twice as much forward trunk tilt from Stephen there. Even a similar front leg stability. I mean, there's not really, wouldn't say they're both into full extension, but definitely Stephen has more extension of the front leg than Jesse. So you can really see it across the board. I mean, the only real similarities for the two were the shoulder orientations all the way to landing were very closed, but significantly different lower half as Lacey gets more power through his drive, more explosion of momentum in landing, and then we see a way more dynamic trunk with all that good forward trunk tilt at release, which is going to be the huge difference in velocity. And also, too, more than likely Stephen's a bigger guy, so you're seeing this from a bigger athlete. So when a bigger athlete's moving farther, faster, quicker, he's going to be throwing a lot harder. So this is what Jesse needs to develop through his training.